All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Mindgasms Quickie. So, what I'm going to talk about today is that Trump is a postmodern president. Now, I'm not the first person to say this. Of course, Slavoj Zizek, the philosopher, and then I think technically either psychiatrist or psychology, because I know he has a degree in one of those, but mainly philosopher and also well-known communist or Marxist, said this in his recent debate with Jordan Peterson. Of course, he said that Trump is a postmodern president. And I had been thinking about this idea for a while before then, and other people have said that before Slavoj too. And for people who don't know anything about postmodernism, it sounds like a really bizarre thing to say, I'm sure. But if you understand a few things about postmodernism, here's how I'll explain how Trump is a postmodern president. So, for example, he definitely exhibits the hyperreal, right? Like he's more, at least in recent history that anyone can remember, he's by far the most bizarre president that anyone can imagine. He's like going around saying like talking about grabbing women by the pussies and saying like, some Mexicans are good people, but most of them are rapists and murderers, and saying all sorts of ridiculous shit and, doing ridiculous things. And to be fair, I personally don't have as much of a problem with him as a lot of people do. I don't think he's Orange Hitler, as some people think he is. And he has done some good things like pulled troops out of Syria and encouraged other countries to institute laws protecting gay people and let people out of prison for nonviolent drug offenses and that sort of thing. But then also, just like pretty much every president, he was anti-interventionist when he was campaigning, and then now he's accelerated the regime change wars in places like Yemen and is drone striking countries without getting authorization from Congress. So he's a war criminal, like pretty much every president, at least since him, Obama, and George W. Bush. But anyway, so it's just the general persona that he has of just saying all this ridiculous shit and insulting people and stuff. That's how he's hyper real. He seems so bizarre that he seems more real than reality. That's basically what the concept of the hyper real means. And the postmodern sociologist named Zygmunt Bauman, or at least a sociologist who examines issues from a postmodern perspective, Zygmunt Bauman, uses this term hyperreal. And I think Trump really fits into that category of hyperreal. And it also reminds me of Baudrillard, who's another well-known postmodern writer. He talks about this idea of the simulacrum, and in his book Simulacrum and Simulation, for example, um, people famously link this to the Matrix because in the first Matrix movie, it's the book that Neo opens up, and he gets this program that he's made for someone to sell to this guy illegally on the black market, who comes to his door before he follows the white rabbit tattoo that the woman has on her back because he's been told to do that by Morpheus. But anyway, so it's this idea that we're in a simulation too is kind of linked to this idea of simulacra and simulation that Baudrillard talks about. So Trump is postmodern in that way too, because he's so bizarre and it's so hard to believe, especially for people who don't like him, who really don't like him, that that he actually is president. That it's really easy to start thinking, are we actually living in the real world, or is this just some sort of simulation? And in that way, Trump is sort of a simulacrum too. Which basically means that he's sort of a poor image or symbol or representation of something, like a rudimentary example. So it's as if someone made a simulation of reality, and when they were when they were constructing what's going to be the president of the United States, they just kind of half-assed it and said, okay, we'll put this guy in the role, just see what goes on. And obviously it worked out disastrously. So that's way that's a way that he can do that. And then also another way that Trump is a postmodern president is that he basically kind of pulls back the curtain, covering what being a president is actually like. Because it shows, for example, that Trump is saying that he's going to do all these things that he doesn't even know he's not capable of doing. So one good thing about Trump, especially if you don't like what he's doing, like accelerating regime change wars and other sorts of things like that, is that he can't do some things that he wants to do. Like he wasn't able to do that, basically Muslim ban, deporting people in America who are from Muslim countries, and there there are lots of other policies that sound terrible that he couldn't do too. So it shows that this idea that we have of the president being this magical, infallible, professional person is sort of deconstructed, is a word that a postmodernist would use. Like it's helping deconstruct the role of what being the president of the United States actually means. Like it's not necessarily the case that he's this glorious leader who will save the world and stuff like that. Like one positive spin that you could put on Trump, and I think I saw Michael Malice make this point on Joe Rogan podcast the other day. He was saying that it's good that this is happening with Trump because it's making people question authority more, and it's making people question their president. And if Trump were not all ridiculous like that, it people probably still would, of course, criticize the president, but they wouldn't have so much animosity, perhaps, and wouldn't be so encouraged to do so to the same extent. So, yeah, basically, that's how Trump is a postmodern president. He is hyperreal, and he is a simulacrum, or a poor representation of the simulation of what we call reality. It's, if we do live in a simulation, who knows? He's the simulacrum for the simulation of our world, and he is hyperreal. And he pulls back the curtain, showing what it's actually like to be a president. And he's just so bizarre that it's like he's hyperreal. So anyway, thanks so much to everyone who watched my little soapbox rant here about how Trump is a postmodern president. And hopefully, if anything, this encourages those of you who watch this to learn more about postmodernism. And those of you who regularly watch my channel probably know that I've been learning a lot about this lately, reading books, and especially talking with Tim Keefe a lot about it. And yeah, basically, main takeaway from this, other than that Trump is a postmodern president, is that also learn more philosophy. It's awesome. So anyway, thanks to those of you who share this video, subscribe to my channel, and especially to those of you who contribute to me on Patreon. Really appreciate that. And like I always say, I love you all. Keep being the tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all. All right. Keep having mindgasms, everyone, and adios until next time.